Ahoy! It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce Sally and Noel Lien. I've known them for many, many years and count myself blessed to have them in my circle of friends. Sally was born in Winchester, Ontario. She's a multi-talented lady and generous to a fault. She's a skilled sailor, a lieutenant of the Sea Cadets. She volunteers with disabled children, teaching them to ski. And she has a grand sense of humor, as we all know. Noel is also multi-talented. He was a carpenter when the TD Tower was built. He was a pupper for many years. That career led to his becoming a paralegal. He's a skilled sailor with all things boating, and he joins Sally in teaching disabled children to ski. Both Sally and Noel work hard in the winter so they can sail somewhere in the summer. Next Monday, April 3rd, they fly to Dublin, then bus it to New Ross, Ireland. They will stay on the boat, and after ensuring that they are COVID-free, they will visit family and friends over Easter. They hope to launch Kalinka late April, early May, and get underway north to try again to get their little ship to Canadian waters. Maybe. We'll see. Please give them a warm Shellback welcome.
Okay, we've got to move up to the X on the floor.
Just a minute.
Oh.
We got to get the slideshow going again.
Where's Moses Damer in there?
Oh, okay. Ron,
Okay.
is it all gonna be on the screen?
We good to go?
Yeah.
And then it's supposed to.
And there's your,
Oh, I get to push the button. Okay, perfect.
Can I do that?
No. You can't do that, Shelley. I'm pushing the button.
He doesn't like me pushing his buttons.
no, just a moment.
But we do it anyhow.
She will. Anyway,
Gotta fix something first.
okay.
I took the photo.
Where's that?
Someone's kitchen.
He was in it a few minutes ago.
Okay,
Are
We good to go?
should be.
Did everybody hear me?
We storm
Or us?
away, we storm away the bowling.
Anyway, so this is last spring in, that's Chatham on the other side of the river. And for the life of me, I can't remember what the town is on the boatyard side, but that's the
Up
Midway.
north. Up north.
Up north. And that's the Medway Yacht Club, which is the oldest yacht club in the UK. And then we were here, Sally took the picture from up on the mast. I'm not sure why I sent her up there, but we did. It may have just been for some peace and quiet. And then this is kind of what we found when we got to the boat on the first day. And this is after 3 years of COVID and being up on the hard with the moss
That's moss.
growing off it and off the tarp.
Sad.
What also we found, within the 3 years, somebody broke into the boat and stole all of our tools. And can you believe it, they stole my hair clippers. Right, like, you know, the tools
Every
were
tape
okay.
measure.
Yeah, anyway, so we had a bunch of time cleaning that up. And then this is the first night in England. This is Rum Club. And that's, well, you can see Sally. And well, that's me on the other side, of
We
course.
totally recommend joining a rub club.
Yeah.
And so on a less formal night, they'll try 1 or 2 rums.
But
and
because Sally was there,
This was the gala evening and
Yeah.
everybody had to bring some rum. We had a great time. It was terrific.
yeah. And then Sally's sister's backyard, and she's washing the tarp, trying to get it clean so we can fold it up and put it into the boat.
And my brother-in-law lent us his pressure washer. It was great.
Yeah. And then we had to replace all the batteries on the boat, battery charge and a whole bunch of other things, so we elected to go with lithium batteries.
Did you get a pen?
And those 3 batteries were about what the boat's worth.
But because we used lithium, we were able to get rid of 1 battery, so then we kind of almost got rid of our list, which had been there for 25 years.
And now I'm down into the sail locker, hooking one of the batteries up.
The new starter.
And I made sure that I was able to open up the latch, that there was no lock on it, because you know what would have happened. And the batteries were light enough that,
Talk into it.
I'm talking into it, that Sally could carry 2 of them, as opposed to just being able to carry 1.
What did you carry?
See?
Ha!
I carried the camera. Then I fixed the tarp,
Dodger.
Dodger. That's the place inside the engine room. We put solar panels on it too this year, and then that's trying to figure out how to make the controller work. There they are there.
The solar panels, we got the flexible ones that you can't walk on, or sit on, or kneel on. That was a problem. It did seem like a good idea at the time. We ended up, the only place we could store them on the boat was to hang them on the back of the head door when they're not in use.
Hold that. We had, the insurance company demanded that we replace the rig, and I had replaced it all before we left here in 2012.
Maybe seven.
Okay, Sally. So we had to hire a professional rigger, and he would have been much happier had we taken the mast out and he did it on the ground, but we couldn't make an appointment to do that, so he did it in a bosun's chair.
Well, we could have done it, but we had 3-week delay on haul out to get the mast out. We had to launch, go over, haul out, haul the mast out, and we didn't have that time because we were still very focused on getting our boat back to Canada. We didn't even paint the bottom.
No, we didn't paint the bottom, and this is the travel lift on launch day, and it's remote controlled. That's me on the right, and the little guy on the left is retired Chief Petty Officer of the Royal Navy. He's working the travel lift. And for some reason, I'm back down in the lazarette of the boat.
No, please hold the microphone right to your mouth.
So for Noel to get in the lazarette, it's really quite tricky. Go back 1 picture. He has to put in 1 hip bone, 1 cheek,
Sure.
1 shoulder, the other shoulder, and what's down there is the steering quadrant, the furnace, not much else. We'll talk.
We also bought 65 meters of chain there because we'd got the windlass working, and that's me putting the chain down into the chain locker.
Without
Right.
the windlass, why?
Without the windlass, because we had let off the old chain, and when I started just to give the windlass a run, I started the chain back up, and that was the end of that. It's a drop chain, but it wouldn't pick it up anymore, so. We left up north and headed south down the Medway River. This is one of the forks that's at the conjunction of the Medway and the Thames. That's the Thames over on the far side of the picture, and where we are is in the Medway. And that is a wreck, and I forget the name of the ship, but it was a munition ship, and there's enough unexploded bombs and things on there that if it goes up, and they're afraid that it's gonna go up one of these days, it'll send a tidal wave up and take out everything in the Thames River up past London. So it's well marked and keeps everybody away, and I've read something this year that they're going to attempt to remove some of the stuff, so good luck. we left there and we were, made our way down out through the deeps and the ooze, and these are the 5 of the Thames forts. There was another set of these further out to sea, and they were built as anti-aircraft forts and gun platforms for the last war. And one of them was used when they had pirate radio stations in the UK. One of the pirate stations was on there.
Radio Luxembourg, I think.
Yeah. We went down, went into Ramsgate, and that's a picture of the harbor. And you can see the arrow where our boat is, and you can see the West Breakwater. When I went in there in 2019, I was by myself. Sally wasn't with me. And I heard the turn to go onto one of the pontoons, fell alongside it. I went to step off of the lines and tripped on the tow rail of the boat and landed down on the concrete pier. And that's the harbor inside. That's the older harbor. There's another harbor that you lock into on the inside. I could eat this, Sally. It's not lunch. And now we're on our way down. We left early in the morning. We were going to go into Dover, except Dover was closed to power boats because they put in a brand new marina pontoons. But what they didn't do was nobody looked at what the water situation was inside. And when storms come up the English Channel, it just went in there and made everything, you couldn't go on the docks, it'd throw you off. So they closed it all up and they have to rebuild the whole thing. And this is the White Cliffs. We went around from there, so we had to go all the way from Ramsgate right around into Brighton. We're in the Marina of Brighton, and we didn't know about this, but we went for a walk, and there was 2,700 minis there. They had a rally, so there were minis all over the place. Some of them were up on blocks where they were changing brakes and transmissions and engines, so, and noisy. Then we went, of course, on to Brighton Pier.
Oh, yeah, I did that.
Had lunch in the beer road there.
Yeah.
We got from there then into Portsmouth, and this is the Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier. We were across at Gosport. This is at Leamington, and that's their committee boat.
Is that right? Yeah, my dad was born.
Please?
Leamington on the mainland, in from the Isle of Wight. And they don't bother with committee boats, they have this little island. It's kind of fun.
And then from there, we went around, this is still in Leamington. We bought a new windlass when we were in Gosport, and this is me installing it upside down and inside out. And Sally was nice enough to rig the dinghy like that because it was pouring down rain. Needles. And then we went down to Poole, and these were our friends Dave and Dawn, and I had asked them to get me a cruising guide for Iceland and Greenland and the Faroes. So we had to drive up into Wales to get it. And then we went, this is Port Menier, which is a model of a
Port Marion.
Marion.
You know the pottery?
No.
Yeah, this is the village by the architect.
So anyway, we went there for a visit and picked up the book, and that was the most expensive cruising guide we bought. From there, we went down to
Bombay Sapphire.
Bombay Sapphire, the gin.
Bombay Sapphire near Winchester. This was supposed to be the distillery. Now, I worked in the liquor store through COVID, and we sold an awful lot of Bombay Sapphire. And this place was closed entirely through COVID. So I think it's one of those decoy distilleries, for want of a better term. I was so unimpressed when I realized it had been closed the whole time, and I knew how much we sold.
Then we went from there, this is Portland, the harbor of Portland. Every time we've been in there, there's been a regatta or a race on. And there's one of the ocean rowing boats there, and then a lot of dinghies and a couple of other boats racing. And what they tended to do, because we were anchored out, they used us as a turning mark. So we had these things racing around, and like that the young lady was here a couple of weeks ago about on the foils. Well, we had those racing around us too. You got busy watching all that stuff, you know. And we came over there and went around Portland Bill, and we went through there at mid-tide, I guess, so we went through at 8 knots rather than at about 14. Went into, this is Salcombe.
Nope.
This is
Dartmoor.
Dartmouth. We're out on the floating pontoon, and this nice man came down. We're talking to him, and he free dives and supplies scallops to all the restaurants around there. So then he came back with a feed of scallops for us right out of the ocean. I wanted to know if we knew how to eat them or cook them. I said, well, just eat them raw. And absolutely, that's the best way. They're really good. So, in Salcombe Harbor.
Now, we were a bit overwhelmed because I think the next picture will show you. The place was hopping. On the moorings, boats were rafted. This was a dinghy park. We didn't cotton on. In honor of the Queen's Jubilee, England shut down for a 4-day weekend. So we go ashore thinking, yeah, we'll go for a pint. Not a chance. If you didn't have it booked, you weren't getting in. England was on holiday for that 2 weeks, because you either took the week before or the week after. And it was wild. You expect long delays, and we might get to be able to serve you. It's the Jubilee.
Falmouth, and we were there for the Jubilee, and this was the street party that the town put on. And I think that table went for at least a quarter mile, and they supplied food, drink. I forget.
It was Cornish pasties, tepid cups of tea, and the Anglican Church put on scones and Devonshire cream and strawberries. I got the wrong term for that, but you know what I'm getting at. Yeah, clotted cream.
Yeah. That's a Happy Sally. Don't often see pictures of a Happy Sally, but that's one.
This was the day, so we left wherever we were, and we're going, and it was the chart said naval exercise area. And you can see, it's like flat calm. There is no wind.
It was off Plymouth. It was outside Plymouth, and it was calm, flat wind, and with no wind, so we're motoring along, and to seaward of us was a naval ship, and we're all on there, and then there was a big wave come out of nowhere, smooth, just rolled us up and rolled us from side to side and up and down and gone, just a one wave. And I think what it was a submarine displacing the water underneath us, and the boat that was to seaward of us was a sub-hunter, and they were doing exercises, but that's the only thing it could have been, because there was no other reason for this wave to come out of nowhere, so I'm glad they didn't surface. We left there, and we went to Ireland, and you've all seen the pictures of Kilmore-Keene, different places, so we didn't put any in, but we went right up to Port Ellen on Islet, and I happened to be walking down beside the boat, look at the boat, and we had a beard on the boat about this long, with grass and stuff. So I bought a brush, and I'm trying to scrape most of it off. And that's why, we didn't paint the bottom, and I think we should have.
Well, we were pressed for time. We wanted to get in, we wanted to get moving, and we were figuring by the time we got to the St. Lawrence, you'd be in fresh water, so everything would drop off. But it didn't work that way.
But you notice who's doing the work.
What's your point?
From there, we went up to the island of Gia and had dinner in the little restaurant there, and this was Sally's dinner, and that's big crab and stuff. And I had a lobster, and Sally won. That was a much better meal than what I was having.
And it was half the price of his lobster.
And while we were at Gia, we found out there that our old board motor, I couldn't get it to run or stay running. So we had to roll all over the place. We left there and then headed north up into Scotland, and this is beginning to be summer weather. And we went, and part of the trip, we were going up to the island of Rum to get some rum that we had at the rum tasting back down in Chatham. And we went up there and we got to Rum.
No, this is Oban.
This is Oban, sorry. So anyway, we're on our way to Rum, but we went into Oban to see if I could get a part to fix the old motor. I couldn't get the little part, so I just decided, I found the black one on their Kijiji and just bought a new motor, and we donated the other motor with the tank of gas and stuff to the lifeboats out of Oban. Now we're on our way up to Tobermory, across from Oban up, and this is, the tide was running and the wind was against it, so that's the seeds that we had to put up for a little while. And a bunch of bank shearwaters. And then we got to the Isle of Rum and went for a walk to buy a bottle of rum. And that's what we saw when we got to the door of the rum shop. So we didn't knock, we just went around the corner and went through the open door into the town hall, and you could walk right into the place, so, but you couldn't find any rum anyway. But as we were walking around, there was a man eating chicken. And then there was a bunch of red deer. There's 5 of them in that picture. They were all over the place. And then we were on our way up inside passage to the island of Skye and to go further north. And then this boat was sitting in the channel too. We were waiting for the tide to turn. And Stornoway Harbor, and see the big seal there. There was about 7 or 8 of them in the harbor, because the fishing boats would unload there, and then seals were big because they were getting fed a lot. Went for a bus ride.
Oh, no, hang on.
Why not?
So this is the day after.
Yeah.
So when we were in Stornoway, we got a weather window, everything was grand. We had to put in a new antenna. We bought a satellite doohickey. We watched too much YouTube during the lockdowns. And one boat had a, what is it?
It's an Iridium Go, which is a satellite receiver, so you can get weather in the middle of the ocean. You can also do emails with it and phone calls if you want and stuff. So I put one of those on the boat to get the weather, and it really helped. But we had to wait. Well, all the way up on the way to Stornoway, I was getting phone calls from somebody in the Philippines telling me that I needed to put a value on line 2 of the invoice. I didn't know what invoice they were talking about because I paid for the antenna through the States, and I don't know why I was talking to somebody, and English was probably their 5th language, and I don't hear anyway. We're outside, the wind's blowing and stuff, so I can't hear, and all the way up there I'd get these phone calls. And I was getting mad at them, and I just said, well, send me, and I was expecting an invoice from UPS, who was doing the delivery of the piece. And it was always line 2, and I looked at the invoice I had, there was no line 2. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And then eventually, I got to talk, a woman from Inverness phone, and said, we've got your thing here. And he says, what thing? And she said, from Iridium Go, oh, that. I said, yeah. She says, but we need we need you to sign or tell us what the value of it is on line 2. And I says, not you too, like I've done with this stuff. And she said, what are you talking about? I says, deal with people from the Philippines or wherever, and I don't know what they're saying. There is no line 2. And she says, well, and what it was a SIM card that it had included with the unit. And on the invoice I had, there was no value for it. It was zero value. And nobody could figure out what it meant. So when I was talking to Fiona in Infra, I says, well, the thing's like, it was free. So I said, it's worth $1. And that's all I had to do was just give them $1. Nobody could figure that out. But the funny thing is, we know a Fiona who lives in Inverness, who has a dog named Poppy. So this woman says to Sally, this is Fiona. And Sally says, how's Poppy? Figuring it was the Fiona we knew. And then she said, no, this is, I need to speak to Mr. Lien. So, you're not Fiona, but we know that.
Anyway, we had this wonderful satellite receiver weather routing system. In the morning, at 5:30, when we headed out, it was grand. We were gonna go between 2 low pressures, and it'd be, not great it was going to be a 36-hour sail to
The Faroes.
Iceland.
So there was no 5 days to the island.
Anyway, then we're off Stornoway somewhere
And I
at
did tell
about
her 5 days.
10 in the morning. Noel gets a weather update, and there is no way they could find a route for us that met our parameters of comfort. And it was gonna be a force 8 gale, whatever we did. And so Noel said, I think we need to turn back. I said, great, let's turn around and then we'll sort it out. And we turned around, and with that, all these porpoises came to the boat. And this is the day after, and it was a howling gale, and I'm in the lead. And we got the bus to nowhere to look at standing stones, and we got the next bus back, because it was raw.
We got stuck in Stornoway for a total of 15 days. Stornoway's worth half a day,
Right.
max.
Did the rum shop ever open?
Oh, yeah.
After we were gone, but in Stornoway of all places, and the other thing, last year, I dropped, we had some roly-poly glasses, you put them on the table and they wobble all over the place. So if you're drunk, you don't notice anyway. And I broke one. So we get to Scotland, I figured, and we go to, the reason we went to Skye was to go to the distillery to get another glass. And it was Ardbeg, and we were on the big pontoon there, and we sitting there, and the harbor master wanted us out of there because he had a big boat coming in. So I said, well, this is what we're here for. We'll just want to go up to the distillery, get this glass, and we're gone. So we can be whatever. And we couldn't get a bus. So the harbor master says, I'll drive you up. So he drives us up to the distillery. We get to the distillery. The place is empty. There's not a parking lot, or a car in the parking lot. And he says, I'm gonna wait, will you go down and check the door? So I walk down to check the door in, and there's a big sign. We're on the mainland for a party, we might be back in a week. So we didn't get the glass. So every place we went, going up there, every town in Scotland that had a whiskey shop or a grocery store, we kept asking about these glasses. Nobody had glasses.
Or
We
rum.
asked, or rum. Rum, no, we make scotch in Scotland, we don't make rum, so there's rum from the island of rum. So we get to Stornoway, there's a little whiskey shop on the quayside, and I walk in there, and I'm looking around, and they got all kinds of different whiskey. And I said, by any chance, would you know if we can get rum from the island of rum here in Stornoway? He says, yeah, you can get it here. I said, would you like to tell us where we can get it? He says, just reach down onto the shelf that you're standing behind. There was a whole shelf full of stuff in the whiskey shop. So then we're talking to him, and I asked him, the next question was, what about these roly-poly glasses? He says, no, we don't have any of this. Out of the back room comes a female voice, said, I got 2 boxes of those things. So she comes over and says, how many do you want? I says, well, I only need one because I broke one. she says, no, you can't just go away with one. So she gave, here's 3 of them, so now you can feed to your friends. So we did that. What?
Click the next picture.
Anyway, so, we had a good time.
You may have to click it, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. This is a full-size, bunch of sticks, a representation of a boat that sunk out off of Stornoway, and was a pleasure boat, ferry or maybe something, and a bunch of people died on it. So they put this into the harbor, and then at night it's all lit up on there. So it's quite an impressive memorial.
Is that a Canadian flag up there that I saw?
Yeah,
Yeah, because we're in the harbor.
yeah, we're in the
That
harbor.
was you. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
no, but that was because we were in the
The
harbor.
harbor, they put the flag up.
Go back.
Yeah.
Go back one.
Want to go back? There. Yeah.
Oh.
And
It's all these little small welcomes that are hugely overwhelming when you're there. You're walking along, why is there a Canadian flag? That's cool.
Yeah.
Because we're in the harbor.
Yeah. So anyway, we were there, and these are some of the boats in the marina, one of the rowing boats for the Atlantic rowing race. But we left, the first time the second time we left, we didn't get out of the harbor and the engine quit. So we called the harbor master, said, our engine's just died, we're gonna turn around and probably sail in. And he said, no, you're not, we're going to send over the boat to tow you. And I said, well, you don't have to, there's lots of room, we're quite able. And he said, no. So there was a fishing boat that they sent out, he towed us back into the harbor, but he didn't tow us into the marina, he left us tied up outside of a pilot boat in the main harbor. So I went down to try and figure out what was going on, and it was a plugged filter, as you can see there. Changed the filter, cleaned it all up, and it wouldn't start. So eventually they just started up the pilot boat with us tied alongside them and took us inside and spun us around, stuck us on a big long dock. And I literally had to pull the boat apart and the fuel tank, and right in the pickup tube is where the blockage was. And so managed to clear that, dumped 100 liters of fuel, and that's some of the crap that was down in the tank. And it was the diesel bug that there's a microbe that lives in that thin layer on the top of the diesel fuel with the water. It's water, so it lives in that little area between the water and the diesel, and then eats the diesel, and then it craps, and then it buggers up all your fuel filters. So anyway, we got it clean, got it filled up. But by then, the problem was, well, not a problem, it was a good thing. My mom turned 100 last year, so her birthday was on August 19th. We were now at the end of July, so we didn't have enough time to get home. We would have had enough time to get to Iceland, except the weather turned bad again. So we decided at this point that we'd just turn around and head back down to New Ross, Ireland.
So at this point, Europe was on fire. There was a massive high pressure over Portugal, just where the wine in France grows was all on fire. And it kept the jet stream way north. So we had headwinds galore. And then we decided to head out. And this was the favorite place for people to go from Stornoway. This was the hot spot to anchor if you left your boat in Stornoway, these islands. And I can't remember the name.
No.
There were birds.
But it's quite a big harbor indeed. There's half a dozen boats in there, but there's also a bird sanctuary. So there was just birds all over the place. Then there was a hole to the rocks, I think, where the Navy used to practice their gunfire. So we stayed there, and then when we left, we had every day actually we had the porpoises and the dolphins around the boat. This particular day they were around for about an hour, and there was about 30 of them. all over the place, so. We get from there, we're heading south. This is in Tobermory Harbor. And we were stuck there. We were stuck on the boat for 3 days. We couldn't get off it for the wind blowing. And we watched, and you can see the 3 small boats there. 2 of them are being towed by the other one, because you could see one guy come up and he'd stop out there and he'd be screwing around with his motor, nothing would happen, so the other guy would come and get him, and then he had to pick up the 3rd one too, so. And we sat there on the hook, and then one morning I was up early, and a big boat left, and it was going out, it had a Canadian flag on it. It was a Canadian boat from Vancouver, and we never got to meet them or talk to them, so.
We couldn't launch our dinghy because we wouldn't tow it, we kept it on deck. So getting it into the water, it would have caught the wind and just blown away on us, like it would have gone hard. We wouldn't have been able to lower it to the deck. The downhaul just wouldn't happen. It was ferociously windy. This was a nice calm day when we did get ashore.
This is actually down on the island of Carrera, which is back down at Oban. We came down through Strait of Mull Strait or whatever, Sound. And we,
Sound Oban.
yeah, you can, just up in the top right corner was the entrance into Oban Harbor. And it might be, I don't know, 1/8 of a mile wide, if that. And it's the main entrance and exit. So you're dealing with ferry boats in and over there and everything, fishing boats, yachts. And just as we got to the entrance, the engine quit again. So.
Timing is everything.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, we're there and we get a blowing stink. So we get a little bit of head sail. Sally's on the phone to the marina there and asked them if they can make sure that their field rock pontoon, the long pontoon is open because we can sail into it. But coming through the entrance and we're tacking back and forth and we're not going really fast at all, but we're making, because it's pretty much upwind to get in there, and we finally get into the bay and we're doing well. The guy that Sally phones, he says, well, I can't be there right now, I'm doing the ferry run to Oban, but I'll get back before you get in and I'll make sure that the pontoon's full. So we get close to the marina and the pontoon wasn't empty. So she immediately got on the phone to him again, and they ran down and moved their committee boat, and we were able to sail on it. And then again, I had to do filters and get the engine running again. And then we headed down, and we were gonna go back to Dialagia and then down through the North Channel and over to Belfast, and then we decided, we'll save a couple of days by going through the Crinan Canal, which is this canal going through.
So, for whatever, the Mulligan Tar is quite a big peninsula of rock. And the weather to the north of it was vile. And the weather to the south of it was delightful. So we did the Crinan Canal.
Yeah. Which was a delightful trip. And then it was pretty straightforward from there. We had problems with the engine again, crossing Dublin Bay. And I was changing the filter at sea, and Sally put in a call to the Coast Guard to tell them that we were having problems with the engine, but we were okay, we did need a tower in it. And the harbor master came on, and Sally can tell this story.
Well, this was the second day I'd received over the VHF. The first one was going into Campbelltown at the end of the Mulligan Tar. We're going in there, and there was a Navy boat coming out. We're going along just fine, and it's if it was a wine glass, he was coming out of the stem and into the glass. And so there's lots of room. We get 5 blasts. And then I hear our call sign on the radio.
Sally got 5 blasts, I wasn't.
No, it was at the point where you go down and do the panic pee, and then it was gonna be my turn, but I didn't get there. Anyway, So I get 5 blasts, and I've got the radio right there, and then I hear our call sign, and I'm there, warship, whatever, copy 5 blasts, what is it you expect me to do? We were clearly gonna pass port to port. And he said, okay, port to port. So he got an exasperated, port to port, understood, standing by, out. I was so mad. And then when we go Dublin Bay, there is 2 racing fleets here. We've rounded home, we're crossing the shipping channels. We're just clearing the shipping channels. We have to sail between the 2 racing fleets, and I see the pilot is going out to the Holland America cruise ship, and the engine dies. That day, I think we only got 8 hours out of a filter at 44 pounds a filter. So, fine. I put out a security call. They say you gotta phone Dublin Port Control. And Dublin Port Control gave me, as only in Dublin you could say, a bollocking on the radio saying, how dare I traverse his shipping lanes without 24 hours advance warning, and he was lynching me. And he said, Kalinka 1, did you copy? I said, negative, overspoke. And back at me again. Did you copy that time? Affirmative, Kalinka 1, 10-meter sailing vessel, out. Like, we're a little tiny boat. We were not his problem. We weren't even in the shipping lanes. But our speed had suddenly changed, and they were getting underway on a very big cruise ship, and we would have been right in their way. So the point of the security call was to get the pilot just to pause 2, 3, and then he could get underway and we wouldn't have been a problem. We get into Dún Laoghaire Harbor, and I called them. Cell phones are almost easier than VHF, that part of the world. And I called them to say we were coming in, and with that the engine died. So I said, I gotta go, engine died. He said, our computers are dead too. I said, fun. So we get in, call them again, yeah, just tie up anywhere. We tied up anywhere. I walk up and they said, whoa, did you ever get it from Dublin Bay? And you know, they're supposed to be specially trained not to lose their cool.
So we left there, and we run the tides from Dublin down right around up to New Ross. So we left Dublin, and we were on our way to Arklow, and we got as far as Grey Harbor, because we were dealing with wind against tide. It was just miserable. Engine ran fine there. We left the next day and got down into Arklow. I changed the filter there, because I just figured it's a good idea, because when we went down around the corner at Control Point, I didn't want to lose it there because it would be a nasty piece of water. So we went, from there we went into Kilmore Key, and actually we just got around Control Point, and it was flat water, and the engine died again. Changed the filter, and I had one left. We got into Kilmore Key, and then we went into the marina, the shop there, and I ordered another five filters. We had to wait 4 days for those to arrive. And then we were only 20 miles from the boatyard, from New Ross Boat Yard. But I called them up there and said, look, we're having problems with this, and I don't know if I've got enough filters to get up the river. And by then we were on an anchor up at Dunmore East. So they said, okay, well, we'll send a guy down to a powerboat. He'll meet you at the bridge. And then if anything goes wrong, you tow you all up the boatyard. So the engine ran fine from there all the way up to New Ross. And it was probably running fine, but I pulled the fuel tank all apart. So anyway, we were in New Ross. This is our stairway that, because they like Sally, we don't have to climb ladders. Put the tarp on, and then that's good night at New Ross, and that's the end.
Okay, I'll show you where we do.
For what?
So we started here.
You need the mic.
Sure.
Then I need somebody to point. We started there, went across the south coast, went across to New Ross, and the weather was vile, and we were so busy having fun, we didn't get a single picture. And we left there, and then went up the coast, through Oban, Isle, and then we left. We left twice from Stornoway, and then we gave up. We got every single bus in Stornoway, all over the island. We went to Harris, we got the ferry back to the mainland in Stornoway just for something to do. It was a howling gale. And then, when we got the diesel bug, deep sea oil skipper said, what's your plan? I'll look after Kalinka 1 if you get her back to the mainland for the winter. And it was like massively generous. I said, we're thinking we should bring her back to New Ross, and he'd run boats up into New Ross Harbor. And he said, get it out of Brexit, good idea. Because, so that's what we did. So then we leave Stornoway and we go all the way round back to, so we actually we didn't get that far, but we sure tried.
Thank you, Sally and Noel.
Yeah, it was all fun.
And it was all fun.
Yeah.
Are there any questions or comments?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna put this back there.
Diana?
What was the problem with the filters? Was it you or them?
No, it was bad fuel.
No, okay.
Oh,
It was just bad fuel. We cleaned the tank in Stornoway, obviously didn't clean it enough, and then we got another load of fuel at Oban, and I think we got some bad fuel there, so it was just bad all the way around. The fortunate thing is it didn't happen when we were, a day or two out of Iceland. Because what we were gonna get when we left, we would have had 25 to 30 knots on the coast of Iceland. When I got the final weather report, we would have been dealing with 45 to 55 knots for 3 days, so.
So, when we got to Ireland, in New Ross, drain the fuel tanks, pressure wash it, we cut big holes in it, we leave it empty. And, we needed to replace the cutlass bearing. The hub of the propeller was cracked. We had horseshoes that we didn't have more problems off the coast of Iceland where we don't speak the lingo, we don't do Jamie Mackers. We were very lucky.
I think you better throw some coins into the water before you.
I won't do that.
Before you
I
take
put them
off.
under the
I think
mat.
Couple of questions. Do you not use biocide?
We
Yeah.
did.
You do? Okay, all right. And while you're out there, are many people using the Starlink satellites at all? They're
No,
becoming more
not
and more
where we were.
popular.
Very few people had anything like that.
Hang on, wait, stop. You gotta start all over again because nobody can hear.
Yeah, you gotta please repeat the question.
Repeat the question.
Okay, the question was, were many people using the Starlink satellites? And we didn't see much of that. We saw 1 or 2 boats that had the Iridium GOs, which was fine. Starlink seems to be just getting popular this last year, so maybe when we go back this summer, there'll be more people using it. I know it works well in the States. I'm not sure if it's working well in Europe or not. So.
One guy a Danish boat made a comment that all this technology is making doing this massively safer. With the GPS chart plotting, you're almost always got a third crew member, a navigator, and when we got in, it was a beautiful day. Oh, the cadets were out sailing, everybody was out sailing, and the next day was totally different.
Okay,
Jim, did you have a question?
2 questions. What was this rolly blast that you were chasing? And second question, while I've got the mic, is can you explain a bit more about the diesel bug and why there are not more antibiotics against it?
The roly-poly glass is a tumbler, but it's just roly.
It won't
It's
sit,
just a drink tumbler, but
it won't sit flat.
we don't have a dishwasher, so they tend to break when they slip out of your hand. You talk about diesel.
There is biocide that you put in your fuel because of the diesel bug. The diesel bug is something with, biodiesel, which is the problem, with it, because they mix it with, real diesel. And I think it's got something to do with the fact it's a biological, thing going in the diesel, so these microbes are easy to grow. They also use it to clean up oil spills, because the microbes, you know what they're called, I think that's right. They'll eat the diesel, so they'll clean up the spill. But there are biocides. Normally, whenever we fill the tank, or if we leave it, if we were gonna leave it over the winter, we would put the biocide into the tank then. We never did it putting fuel in at the start of the year, because we never had a problem with it. But after 3 years sitting on the hard in England, we certainly did.
What if you added ethanol or rum?
Well, it's a new
Well,
thing
you go a lot
now that
faster.
diesel's getting more friendly, environmentally friendly, and it's kind of a new thing. I equate it to mixing Metamucil in your orange juice. If you leave it for 5 minutes, you sludge.
Yeah.
You know, and this stuff was just like a gel in the fuel filters and choked it. And it's been a plague of boating over there. And the skipper that helped us, the deep sea oil captain, he flushes his tanks twice through a sailing season.
Okay.
That's crazy.
We have a question online.
Diesel in trucks.
There's questions online.
Diesel in trucks.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
use the blue.
Okay, Seamus, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you, Noel and Sally. Very interesting presentation. And I noticed the key word, whether you're on the water or on land, when you're together, the key word is we. W-E, we. I like that.
I got smacked for not using that word, Seamus.
Well, I hope that reinforced Sally's lesson. And Noel, I admire your search for rum and the island of rum and rum, etc. And I've spent a lot of time in England, but I've never been at a rum club, and I'd really love to go. What is a rum club?
It's a club, and most of them are vets or sailors and stuff, but it's literally, they just go and drink. Well, it starts off, there's a chairman, and they have the club, and everybody, I think they meet once a month or once every couple of weeks, I don't know. And everybody, they'll bring in 3 or 4 different bottles of rum, and then it's a tasting, and then you're supposed to tell them what you think of the rum, and somebody makes copies of what you're saying. I don't know if it goes any further than that, but the guy who runs the place, you never get to take your bottle home. And there's always some left over, so he has a great supply of rum. What we did that year is we bought, we have friends in the States, and they get a rum there, it's called Port Royal. And I think it's about $15 now for 2.5 liters.
Whoa.
So we took a bottle of that over there, and we were at Sally's sister's place, and brought out the bottle of rum, and she said, well, we're not taking that because you're not going to get it back. So she decanted it. So we showed up at Rum Club with half a bottle of this Port Royal. Everybody and other guys, and they're bringing rum at $60, $70, $80 a bottle to taste, and we bring this bog standard cheap stuff from the States, and everybody loved it. They couldn't get enough of it, so which is good. But we managed to get 2 bottles of rum from rum, and we still have one left at the house. So maybe one day, Seamus, you can come over.
Okay, one last thing, Noel and Sally. When I was younger, I remember visiting my grandfather, one of my grandfathers in Dunleary. He was a member of the National Yacht Club. I don't know if it's still there, but
It is,
I was
it
very,
is still there.
yeah. Did you visit any of the yacht clubs when you were there?
The first time we were there, we went into, I think, is the Royal Yacht Club there? There's a National, there's
St. George.
a Royal St. George, and then there's another one. I think we went into the Royal St. George, or the Royal
About
Irish.
4 of them, yeah.
Yeah. So,
And one last thing, Noel, you didn't tell us anything if you visited any of the bars in New Ross area where sailors might go?
no, most of the sailors go to the boatyard. And because Sally's personal friends with the 2 brothers that own the boatyard, and they accept me being there, we have all our parties there.
Well, I'm glad you have good connections, and bon voyage, happy Easter in Ireland.
Oh, you too, thanks, Seamus.
I think we have another question over here. Donna, did you have a question?
Thanks, Diane. Wonderful presentation, guys. What an experience, and for you guys to share it with us, it's incredible. Not to push the button, but what are the plans for this summer?
Okay. You'll have to repeat the question for people on Zoom.
Okay, we will.
Yeah.
So Donna's question is, what are the plans for this summer?
Not a repeat of last summer. It's the first one. Well, we've got 2, maybe 3 plans. Is to get the boat back to Canada this year. We're leaving, we'll be underway probably the 1st of May, and we'll have lots of time then even to wait out weather to get us home. We'll come home via Iceland, and probably wind up sailing from Iceland right down to Newfoundland, because I've been waiting for permission in Ireland to bring the shotgun in so that we can have it on the boat and come down the Labrador coast. Because you go ashore there's these big white animals that are hungry, so. But I don't think that's gonna happen, so I think we'll be running probably straight down to Newfoundland. Second plan is, I think we're gonna put the boat up for sale next week when we get there, and if we can sell it in a month while we're getting it ready to go, we'll do that, and then we'll come home and buy another boat here. And then the third plan is just to say to hell with it and sail back to Norway. So it's kind of up, it depends on weather and the mood and which way we're going when we're going.
Thank you both so much. Once again, you have done an exemplary job. I have a couple of pins for you, but I'm afraid they're hidden away right now, but I will get them to you. So let's give them a lovely round of applause. You've done it again, and we wish you well on your sailing this summer, and do throw some coins in the water. I think you need to do something to get your laughter.
It might be Canadian coins.
I got a few pennies.
No, pennies won't do it. Pennies won't do it.
Yeah.
Okay.